When you woke up this morning, what was the very first thing that you did? For most of us, the answer might sound something like, I picked up my phone, I turned off my alarm, I checked my missed messages. Maybe you scrolled on Instagram, on TikTok, the news. Perhaps you didn't even remember that you did any of this at all because it is so automatic at this point. Something that has been on my mind for the past few years is how seamlessly and unconsciously social media and phone use have infiltrated our lives. One study done in 2017 found that 74% of smartphone users felt dependent on their phones. Now, we can only imagine what this statistic would look like if the study were done in 2025. I'm 25. I remember a time where we used to take the metro or the bus, and people would be looking out the window, talking to each other, or simply just sitting there and, having thoughts. But now, for the most part, what we see are people looking down, lost on their devices. I also remember my first post on Instagram. I was 12 years old. I remember adding a fun filter to it. I remember posting it in secret because I knew that my dad wouldn't approve. Back then, social media felt fun. It was incredibly exciting to be at the beginning of an explosion of platforms where people could share their art, their creativity, and their thoughts. Somewhere along the way, in just a few years, my favorite after-school pastime seems to have taken over the world. It has now become constant, expected, inescapable. Do you remember when we used to type BRB, be right back, to our friends, when we'd be talking on Yahoo or MSN Messenger? There was a time where we actually left the online world. But now, we don't be right back anymore because we are always connected. Online, that is. In person, maybe not so much. And this is a disconnection that's been haunting me for years now. While I do think that social media is still a place where people and creativity thrives, there are effects of its use that don't get enough spotlight. We keep pressing play, video after video, reel after reel. But how often do we pause and ask ourselves, do I really want to press play on this? I know that nothing I've shared so far is really surprising, because we're all aware that our prolonged screen time is a prevalent issue in our current society. But it isn't just about screen time. It's about how our brains are being altered with every scroll and every swipe. There's an important system in the brain. It is called the dopaminergic system. I first learned about this in my Fundamentals of Neurobiology class in university. And what I learned really fascinated me and stuck with me, because it gave words to something I'd been feeling for years, but couldn't quite explain. So I would love to share with you pieces of what I learned. Think of the dopaminergic system like your brain's motivation engine. This part of your brain lights up and fires every time something is rewarding to you, when something feels good. For instance, your first sip of coffee in the morning, a bite of your favorite food, hearing the voice of somebody you love. All of these things cause your dopamine system to rev up. This is the part of your brain that is responsible for making you want to do things. But it also fires in anticipation of reward. This means that even before you get the reward, your dopamine engine is already firing, motivating you, driving you to engage in that behavior that will get you the reward. So you know that little buzz of anticipation you get when your phone screen lights up? Or the urge to check Instagram, even though you know that there's probably nothing there because you checked 5 minutes ago? That's your brain going, something good might happen if I engage in this behavior. Sometimes you do get a reward, a like, an interaction. Sometimes you don't. So you try again and again and again in hopes of getting a reward. This is what we call reinforcement learning, and it is widely studied in areas involving gambling. Social media is built upon these psychological principles, keeping you hooked. It keeps your motivation engine firing, always teasing the possibility of a reward. But like any system, if you overwork it, it can start to dull. Over time, your brain can become less sensitive to things that require more patience, things that don't involve instant gratification. Things like reading, writing, taking a long walk without your phone, or sitting in silence. All of these things can start to feel flat, like they're missing something, like you are missing something. We see the same pattern in drug addiction, where more and more of the substance is needed in order to feel the same effect, in order to feel anything at all. An encouraging part, though, is that some studies have found that when social media use goes down, life satisfaction can go up, which means the brain can recalibrate and the quiet moments can begin to feel rich again. But before we get here, we need to understand and talk about what's really going on. I know that none of this feels extreme in the moment, because everybody is doing it. Everyone's doing this behavior. It's everywhere. But that's what makes it so dangerous. It is subtle. It's socially accepted. And it's rewiring the way that we relate to the world, to each other, and to ourselves. It reminds me of something else I learned during my psych degree. When cigarettes were first introduced, they were everywhere. People smoked on airplanes, doctors smoked in hospitals. Some ads even claimed that they were healthy. Nobody questioned it. But over time, and as a result of research, we started to understand the effects of cigarettes on our lungs. I believe that we're in a similar moment now, except what's at stake isn't our lungs, but our brains, our minds, our connection to ourselves, our connection to each other, and our connection to the natural world. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that social media is inherently evil. I recognize the things that it has brought us, but I do think that it is too new for us to fully understand its impacts. So my following questions for you are, how long are we going to wait until we start paying attention? What are we normalizing today? Because we haven't felt the full costs yet. A few years ago, I made a decision that quietly changed my life. I decided to step away from social media. Not because I thought that I was better than it or above it, but because I was exhausted by it. When I'd wake up in the morning, I'd be scrolling. Maybe I felt good for a second, but soon after I felt anxious, behind, like I wasn't enough. I know that these are all familiar feelings. I was constantly comparing myself to people I didn't even know, and to versions of them that weren't even real. I hated that I seemed to do this behavior without even thinking about it. It was so automatic. So I decided to gain control, and I stepped away. At first, it felt so strange. I felt like I was disconnecting from the world, from my friends, from something that had been so part of my life since I was literally a child. But over time, something shifted. I could think more clearly. I could focus better. I felt more present with myself and with the people around me. I gained a clarity that I didn't realize I had lost. People are often surprised when I tell them that I don't have social media. But the response is always positive, because I know that we can all feel it. That our constant connection to our devices is costing us something. Which brings me back to the wonderful theme of this event. Press play. What if pressing play didn't mean more stimulation, but more intention? What if it meant pressing play on a long walk without your phone, on more moments of stillness, of connection, pressing play on silence, on a deep breath, in a world that is addicted to performance, to content, and to overstimulation, what if we took a step back and came home to ourselves, to each other, our very human selves? So tomorrow, when you wake up, maybe after you turn off your alarm, try pressing play on a moment of just being. Just being you. Thank you.